we never stay home because there's so many amazing restaurants in Calgary. We just don't stay. Yeah, but I'd send you that. They were there for drugs and the cartel and screwed the cartel, and I'm not there for drugs. I'm there to. I've just never had any issues. I've never even been scared there once.
Probably feels more Americanized. That's sort of what you think it's like Hawaii.
And beautiful. Beautiful, yeah. We just.
How are you?
When's your caddy party?
Okay, Mom.
It's been
Are you telling me our new club is
Yes,
open?
I know, I looked over there.
Yeah, I know, that's what David's point is.
And I'm like, you just got to be Eastern Block. They're not taking zero.
That's what I said, I go, or should we buy like defective batteries?
Super happy, but.
Something?
The batteries that are in there are the batteries that were in it when it came.
No, because when I realized it didn't work, I was teaching and I went over and I picked it up off the wall and threw it in the garbage.
No, but I mean, so it didn't even come with it.
Oh, I don't know. Yeah, good point. Oh, maybe the batteries in the, got it.
But now that I'm thinking about it, it's Blackstone.
So sweet.
The clock stopped delivered. The clock stopped.
I know. We're talking about that.
2 minutes before the meeting ended.
Weren't we just talking about that? It was like, I don't know, we talked about it, I think, in the project class too. It's like, we just ordered that new clock and.
Well, it was so great up until,
12.
I was just talking about you.
She has a daughter.
Wow. Talking about me?
No, the person behind you.
What?
Yeah, so, yeah, well.
About how you were engaged in profit share and taking notes and
I was.
being held accountable.
I looked at
Doing
my lifetime
things.
earnings yesterday. I don't do a lot, but it's $33,000.
Oh my gosh,
Like,
awesome.
that's awesome. I mean, that's a car.
Yeah.
It's like a new car.
Like a Range Rover or something.
You don't even wanna know.
Oh my gosh, you did not buy another one.
Scotty, not new, it was a great deal.
What's your middle name?
Janetta. Scotty.
Janetta.
Scotty Biscotti.
She said something the other day and it was
Scotty Biscotti is my real name. That's my
a
portable name.
name of a real estate agent in a different state.
Yeah, her name is
Scotty.
Scotty Sellers. I'm like, why didn't I marry someone with the last name Sellers?
Actually, and I meant to do this, but I was driving, so I forgot to send it, but I know a guy in Nevada. Clock's wrong, obviously.
Isn't that a new
Said the
one?
clock's wrong. Yeah, it is a new one. We just talked about that.
When is it?
No, it's not?
It is.
It isn't. Oh, an agent in Nevada changed his last name to Nevada. So that he could, I don't know.
Google, Apple, or-
It's like chrisnevada.com or Nevada sells, I don't know what his, I forget what his website is, but he literally changed his last name. He was adopted. So he wasn't like, attached to his original.
Adaptive parents, your name is.
Oh, yeah, like,
Yeah.
so I meant to send that when he said that, like, no, you could change your name. Scotty Sellers.
Biscotti. So was Scotty Biscotti.
Scotty, you're the only person I know who needs to know this.
Okay.
But the Kelly app is going to be discontinued soon.
Why do you think I didn't know that?
Because
So did you know?
never mentioned it to me.
I deleted it 2 weeks ago.
It's going away. Retired forever.
And ever.
I only used it for profit share.
I don't think anybody really worked.
So it was well filled in class, I'm sure we were supposed to have some homework.
I haven't had the last one.
I don't think I was either.
I was.
So does that mean you got your homework done?
Well, of course, you're on
Is that written on
HHG.
paper there?
Probably, no. But the other expenses just up.
Yeah. Obviously. Yeah, I look at it when it comes out, when it gets emailed to us.
Yeah, that came out, and then I took the listening after, right after it came out. gonna say, how do the people who do price? They just don't wanna have to like not know how high they have to go and miss out and. What's it looking for?
I have a Prior Lake Town homecoming,
Price point.
I think I saw that one.
How much?
$375,
I have a 290.
end unit, built in 2018, 332 with a lot.
When's it gonna be live?
For some reason, they just said shop.
March.
Never mind.
Yeah, something like that.
Probably too soon.
Already, they work from home, so they can't really make a lot during the day. I mean, messy with the kids are going night, and you can't leave during the day for showings. Wow.
Sounds like it's 72 sold.
I don't know what it is. I heard you guys talk about it, but I don't know what it is. Yeah, it's just another paid lead. Okay, tell me
I
more.
saw a 72
60
sold
seconds.
commercial this morning on the news, or on the TV.
Basically, the program is a specific method of marketing home designed to eliminate a lot of those sorts of things. Show it. Is there, you're here. We're gonna show it to the
Little agency or?
well, the agent would be
Who are you marketing? I don't understand. Who are you marketing it to? Buyers or agents?
the principal or the agent.
And how is it not just an MLS? Like, I don't.
It isn't. I'm showing that.
So it's just the concept of one.
It is an entire program. You just simply define that. That's the method of selling. It requires a lot of. And they advertise, you don't hardly advertise to understand our program and market voice. Take that in your hands. So for example, if Apple goes out right now and advertises the Apple iPhone, you don't have to buy that from Apple. You might go to T-Mobile, you might go to Verizon, you benefit. Everyone benefits. Sony phone business. 72 sold, if you are 72 sold, sell them over your points, you get the benefit of understanding the program different from someone else. What we've always done.
Need it right now, in a period of super low inventory where it was selling no matter what.
There's so much business as personal development.
Well, that, how do you, that's premise time. How do you attribute that to 72 sold?
I'm saying is how much business is to get, and do you honestly believe anything? 72 sold. One of different. Or your existing clients may see an ad on TV and go, oh, what if it's 72 sold? And just call them and never even teach. But they
Any minute.
can have different ways in homes that as a result of what's in market, that's their sellers. And it deals in business. Others. But you take your cut, again, I didn't advise you to just participate in the program.
Who's using it here?
I know Tom Wright, he mentioned yesterday.
You want these?
All right, who was here at our last meeting? Who had the opportunity to work on their budgets? So, as a refresher, the last time we got together, what we talked about was committing to getting our budget put together for today's session. And then talking through this pretty cool spreadsheet that basically ties your budget to your income goals based on your particular metrics, ties back and tells you how much real estate you need to sell, and actually gets granular to the point of, if you know your numbers well enough, it's granular to the point that it will tell you how many contacts and how many dials for whatever your needs of generating business is. So Jason Oliver actually had gone through this with our team a year ago, year and a half ago, something like that. And he graciously offered to walk through it today, and then apparently decided to show up. He's on his way.
He had a listing appointment,
Yeah,
here.
he had an appointment, so he's on his way. So, he's going to go through it, but I think it's kind of a cool deal. It takes some time to really work through it and get all your personal goals and information in there. I think Olivia had sent out a copy of it earlier today somehow. I don't know what it means, but so I guess I would encourage, as Jason goes through this, if anyone does have their laptops, you might want to, we can fill it along the way. But please do utilize it and work through it, because I think it's a really cool opener. It allows you to monkey around with a few different variables, and again, it just back calculates that as what it actually means to your bottom line. So I think it's a pretty cool deal, and hopefully everyone will find some value in it and see that it's helpful. For those that went through budget work over the last month, what did you learn? Any eye openers? Anything you'd like to share?
I didn't, I was not here last month, I don't think, so I was not familiar with this. However, I have gone through and looked at my budget, or, looked at things lately, because our account got hacked into. And yeah, it's amazing, like I found one, like I had ordered something online, off like a TikTok ad or something like that.
Sure.
Well, lo and behold, not only did I pay for that thing they sent, it enrolled me in some subscription for like $49.97 a month or something. So I paid 2 months of that before I realized what BS that was. So, just the type of thing that when you do take a closer look, most times you're like, holy crap, what's that? Or I'm still paying for that, I thought I canceled. And that's my personal account. My business account has been the same thing. It's like, okay, well, I've got this subscription for this. I don't use that to, it it's not worth $30 a month for what I pay,
Right.
you know, so. It definitely, doing that is an eye opener.
All subscriptions are there for a reason. Like your gym membership. I've been there for a year and a half, but I just don't feel like going to the trouble of canceling it. I'm gonna start to love it. So they are there for. Jason, I introduced kind of what the concept is here, and let everybody know that you graciously offered to run through these spreadsheets.
Was there a particular one, which one was most valuable?
I don't know, I think you should just run with that. I think. Probably the. Set up it.
Number of deals?
Yeah, number of deals. And then I think that. This might be. Okay, I don't want to sit it over.
Before we do that,
Yeah, go ahead. So it's your gig. You do whatever you want.
thanks, Colin.
All right?
Hey, guys, I'm Jason.
What's up, Jolly?
Hey.
Did you get the listing?
He's jolly.
That's right.
To those that know him and love him.
So all of our businesses are different. Some of us do a lot more transactions, some of us specialize with higher dollar figures. So we're going to be talking about a lot of generalizations and averages, so it may or may not apply to you, but it's the general principle of how the numbers shake out. And I love to scribble. So, first one that you'll have to figure out for your own business, we recently received our 1099s in the mail. That's how much money we made back in 2022. You're going to take that GCI, use a better marker than that. Maybe not.
She's gonna grab more.
Perfect. GCI over the number closed. Why is that important? That's going to tell us our average dollars per deal. Well, I sold 12 deals last year. Well, what's your average? Well, $8,000. So you take 12 deals times $8,000, and that's going to give you like $96,000 GC. Working backwards. Yeah. All right. The next one that's important is, let's talk about contacts over how many deals.
Jason, is there a different color?
Yeah,
Jessica's
she's
grabbing.
running.
Oh, okay, sorry.
You want grape or blueberry?
I like great. So we're gonna talk about, I've got tracing. Contacts over the number of deals. Why is that important? You need to figure out how many people you actually have to talk to per transaction. So that is important. The third one is, what's your cost per contact? So that is where you take your average price per deal. So let's work backwards. Let's say we made $96,000 last year. And we did 12 deals, right? So that is going to be equating to $8,000 per deal. So that's that. So our average is $8,000 per deal. Number of contacts, well, let's see here. I did 1,200 contacts last year. So we take 1,200 by the number of deals, just 12, that's 100. So this is the average number of people I have to talk to get a deal. The third number we have to talk about is, what's the cost per contact? This is where this gets interesting. So we make about $8,000 per deal. We have to talk to 100 people. So we're going to take the average, which is $8,000. I'm going to ask for a calculator. Who's got a calculator? Everyone's got a calculator. So what is our cost per contact? Well, if we know that we had 100 contacts per deal, guess what? Well, we cross out the zeros, right? So it's $80 per contact. So that is the price every time you pick up the phone or write an email to a new person about real estate. It could be 4:30 on a Friday night and you're like, oh, I just want to go home. I could make 5 more calls. Or you could write a check to yourself. It's up to you. So we're going to use these numbers over here. So let's talk about numbers. Does anyone have questions? No. We're all good? Perfect. I like being interrupted. So.
Did you sign the listing?
Very close.
Okay.
Ran out of ink or what?
Press hard enough on those
You
copies.
said you liked being interrupted, so I had
Indeed.
to throw it in.
So this is a spreadsheet that Colin was pointing out that some of us has utilized, and it all boils down to, we're here for wealth building. We want to make our money work harder than it is. We want to maximize everything we're doing. So one of these, that one's scary looking. We talked about net worth, what we owe versus what we make, and that's the difference between the two. Yep. Okay. So we're gonna go, this is a spreadsheet here. Again, total assets versus total debt. What we make, the money we keep, and all of our assets versus what we owe, car loans, mortgages, and such. Oh,
As you fill this out, is it transposing it to your first page there?
it is.
Okay, so it's a process.
Did everyone get this in their email yet?
Not
If not, we'll send it. But this is a very fun worksheet to work with. So let's say,
It's on all the tabs.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. All I had to do is look down there.
No, you're
fine. Just want to make sure everybody, overview, did everybody see all the different tabs across the bottom?
Jason, just quick, if we had another row or column we wanted to add, is that possible, or does that screw things up?
that's gonna screw things up. Well, because it's an Excel spreadsheet, so everything is tied to locations of the cells.
Yeah.
So if you play here, it may affect something over here. So,
Unless you wanted to dig in and redo the spreadsheet.
yeah, so it tells you like you go up here to the address and it tells you how it figures it out. So yeah, you could tweak it.
You could probably add it in a new worksheet at the bottom.
You probably could. But basically assets, you can go in here. Okay, well, let's call it, got $10,000 in my account. And my checking account, I don't know, we'll call it $2,000. Savings account, I'm a college kid, so I've got $100. Assets, maybe a CD, maybe $1,000, give or take. Investments, you could have stock worth, let's say, $5,000. Retirement accounts, guess what? 401k, that could be, let's call it $50,000. So you can see how the numbers are cranking out. What's cool is that this is just the assets. Now we're going to go into the debts. This is the stuff that takes away from our values. So consumer finance. My wife loves Target. Let's call it $1,000. Visa. Let's call it, I don't know, $7,500. MasterCard, you get the idea, right? 5,000. Medical bills, so I've got teeth, call that 7,500. Let's see here, what else, broken arm, whatever, let's call that.
It's all chat.
Yeah.
150,000. All right, so mortgage, we're gonna call my home, we're gonna owe it 175. Not yet. It's smart enough. Car finance, let's say I have a, I don't know, Ferrari. Let's call it what the Ferrari costs.
What, are we financing the whole thing? Let's call it, 280.
And your house,
180,000.
and your house balance is 175.
This is
And you're
LA.
$100 in the bank.
Realistically, that's how.
So really you can tell how, this is kind of fun and conjecturous, but this is where the rubber meets the road. This is where people, a lot of us don't want to know the truth. Because we're working hard, we're spending time with our clients, we're doing stuff, we feel good, but this is where we have baseline. We need to figure out where we really are. And so, go to assets. So we've entered some things there. So just to show you, let's go to the overview. So right now, my net worth is I'm in the hole. I owe more than I make by about $500,000. Well, that's not bad. So this is where it gets fun. So let's go back into debts. Either we're going to make more money, it's going to go to the bottom line, or we're going to get rid of our debts. That's the only thing that can really affect this. We're going to trade the Ferrari in for Pinto. For those of you who are young enough, a Pinto is not a bean, it's a Pinto car.
That'd be $280.
Yeah, just drop a couple zeros.
So we're going to call it $1,000.
Well, that's a good one.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's on Depot miles.
maybe they have to make conditions.
Hasn't exploded yet.
So where does that come into play here? Let's look at overview here. So we were underwater 515,000. Now we're at 236 in the hole still. So we're slowly climbing out. Let's go back into assets. So we owe in debt 175,000 on my house. Well, let's get back into the assets, and we're going to call the asset house. We're going to call it 410,000. So what we owe on the house is less than what the house is worth. The difference between the two is called equity. So what does that do to our overview? We are out of the hole. We have $174,000 to our name.
Go buy a Porsche now.
So for us who have a goal of, let's say we want to make $10,000 extra. An extra $10,000 could be retirement, could be 401k, could be an extra car for a kid, it could be college, could be anything. But if we need to make $10,000 more, and we knew that last year we did 96,000, and we know that $8,000 on average per deal, if we want to make, we want to make an extra 10 grand, we have to sell how many extra homes? 1.2. So if the idea was to increase our wealth 10,000, we have to sell 1.2, give or take, more homes. Why is that important? Well, if we want to sell one more 2-point homes, which sounds funny, let's just round up to 2, because I like the simple math. We need to sell 2 more homes, right? That's $16,000 extra. That's pretty cool, right? But how do I get there? If we know that last year it was 100 contacts per deal, I would have to up my game at least 200 more contacts. So that sounds like a lot, Jason. That is a lot of contacts. It is, but is it really? So we're going to take 365 days. Every week has a Saturday and a Sunday. So technically, 2 times 52 weeks is 104. We're subtract out Saturdays and Sundays. 261 days to play with. Now, I want a vacation, I want to go to wherever, 14 days off. Let's subtract that out. What are we left with? 11, 4, 7, 5, 4, 247 days. So if I need to have 200 more contacts, and I've got 247 days, that's a less than 2 contacts a day to get my extra 16,000.
Less than one.
Yeah, I would like to round up, so.
Just be one then?
You just double it.
So, but that's the power level, guys. We know where we're at, we know where we want to get to, but how do we get there? It all goes down to contacts. So if we can figure our numbers out, and for some of us who are newer in the business, we may not know these beginning numbers, that's okay. But keep track on your calendar, like when every day or whenever your lead gen is, call people, keep track. So then next year, when we're here at the same time, we can count and figure out, okay, that makes a lot of sense. So, did I lose anybody in the math? All right, cool. So, Colin, how'd I do?
You're knocking it out of the park.
Okay.
What else have we got there? Is there more?
What's questions?
Could you maybe change the name of cost per contact to revenue per contact?
Yeah, we could. The impact, sure.
Because
Because it's a cost for the calls you don't make.
I see. Because when I think of it, I think of cost per contact. as
Cost of revenue.
the price that I'm paying to acquire them.
So, as we all know back in real estate school, when people say, answer your phone, that's the one rule that some of our realtor friends don't do. That's the cost of taking a call, it's the cost of making a call, the revenue, that all makes sense. So, but know your numbers. It doesn't take a whole lot, you just gotta get there. And start being truthful with yourself too. I need, 50 contacts this week, or I need 10 contacts this week.
I was just gonna share, the easiest way I have a wall calendar, and at the end of the day, I put on how many contacts I made, how many appointments I set, and it's just a simple visual for me, and you know whether you did it or you didn't, it's an easy place to record it so you can look back and find it.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, good point.
Yeah, I have a PC agent that just, in a notebook, she just does
Check
hashtags,
marks.
right?
It's like whatever it is,
Find it easy.
you just have to do it. Right, because if you don't track it, then you don't know, which you can't figure any of this out, and you're
Right.
just shooting from the hip.
If you had a day you only got 2, well, then the next day, you need to up that.
Yep. And maybe, whatever your goals are for your lead gen, let's say you have, a lot of us have goals of 100 contacts per week. Well, if we have 5 days in a week, that's 20 calls or 20 contacts a day. So maybe you have a jar of, a big pickle jar, and you put matchsticks in it or whatever, 50 or 20 a day, and every time that you make the call, you move it to the next jar, or something, whatever you key in on. That's what's important, is make your darn calls. Because it's a funnel, right? So we are here to build relationships, and it's the funnel, right? Here's the funnel, this is where we meet people at the store, places of worship, door knocking, right? All the other things that come into play. And the funnel, as they move through time is the bottom arrow. We get them approved, we show houses, we get the offers accepted, we negotiate. Guess what? What comes out? Happy clients, and we get paid. So the more that we fill the funnel with contacts, the better. Just makes it easier.
One more thing I was just gonna share that was a tip for me that really made a difference was when we had, it's the contacts you do make too.
Right.
And making sure that you build on those relationships that you have. And the easiest way to do that is take the number in your database of your sphere, divide it by 60, and that's how many contacts a day you need to make. Because and then you'll touch them 4 times a year. And
Yeah.
so so I know out of my 25 contacts I wanna make every day, I have 13 of them have to be my sphere, because that's how many, if I wanna touch them all 4 times a year.
Yeah, that's awesome. And it's
It's an easy formula.
not everybody that gets a touch from us is gonna buy a house the next day. That's not what we do. This is farming. We plant seeds, some grow, some don't. You gotta water them, you gotta nurture them. It's time. And time is also the down arrow here. So for those of us who have smartphones, which is everybody, we find that 3% is the magic number. So if I have 100 people in my smartphone, 3% of the 100, which is what? 3. Thank you for playing. 3 people. 3 people in a group of 100 in the next year are going to be buying and or selling. So, well, Jason, I've got 450 people in my phone. Great, take it by 3%. That's going to be like what? 13, 14? Yeah, so I like to round up, so we're gonna round up to 14. So if our average is $8,000 per deal, and we got 14 pieces of business in the next year, what's that math? Besides a whole bunch, like 120? 112,000? 112K. With people just in our phone. And those are easy leads because they know who we are because we call them, at least we should. You know, mom, dad, the uncles, aunts, whoever it is. So, anyway, that's what I got. Well, questions, good jokes.
What else is there for tabs, Jason? Wasn't
Yeah.
there?
So going back to the spreadsheet here, we talked about assets, we talked about debts, progress. So this is where we can start tracking our progress. So you can enter in here the date, the net worth from the overview, right, 174. And it's going to automatically figure out the change. And then you can put any notes in here. So for some of us, we do updates every month, usually the first of the month. Or it could be quarterly, it could be biannually, it could be yearly. But what's nice is that it's going to keep track. And when you go to the overview, it's going to show, it's going to draw a graph over time of your net worth. So we talked about assets, we talked about debt, we talked about progress, multiplier. So this one here, this is fun. So let's talk about numbers. So let's see here, closed volume listings. Let's say Joe Schmo Realtor did, I don't know, $5 million in listings. And the buy side, he did 72 million or 7.2 million. The GCI, that's just a number. Oh, sorry, 700. So closed listings, let's call it, no, 20. You can start to see how things kind of change here. Listings signed, we did 25 signed. Appointments held, let's say we're doing 50%. So for every deal, we get half a listing. If that makes sense. Listing appointments set, we set 65. Closed buyers, we did, I don't know, let's just call it 20. How many signed buyers? Let's call it 30. Because not everyone you sign is going to buy, right? Let's see here, buyer appointments held. Well, if we signed 30, let's say we're doing 50%, so that'd be 60. And actual set, we'll call it 75. Lead gen hours, this is where we go back to our yearly calendar of how many hours we spent actually making calls for contacts. So let's call it, I don't know, 250. And how many contacts made? I don't know, 2,400. So, on average, I just made these numbers up, right? But this is kind of how it breaks down. 10 contacts an hour. If you're doing 250 hours for the whole year. Well, remember, we were looking over here, and we were doing about 247 days. That's less than 1 hour a day of lead gen to get 10 calls. And then you've got to have 17 contacts to set an appointment, and then lead hours generated, 250, which was the grand total. Set to held, so we're batting 77%. So 3 out of 4, we're going to get that appointments set to held. 50% are going to be held to sign, so if we meet with 20 people, we're going to sign about 10. And then listings signed to close, so we know that if we sign them, they're almost always going to close, which is a good thing. Buyers set to held, again, same numbers as it breaks down. This breaks down the average sales price on listings because of it down here versus what we set here. Average sales price for buyers, it breaks it down. So this is the difference here. And these are the new numbers on how it all shakes out. So if we want to increase our net worth and make more money, it all goes back to making those contacts. And here's everything, how it shakes out again. Total compensation, 7,500. Hours of lead gen. It's just a more in-depth picture of how that works. It's a lot to look at. Some of us don't like math, some of us don't like spreadsheets, but again, that's what I want. I know.
Some of us.
Yeah. Any ahas or anything that kind of jumps out at you?
You have to know your numbers for that to work.
Yeah. I mean, it's fun to plug numbers in, but are only lying to yourself. Yep. So, anyway, that's pretty cool. So moving further on the spreadsheet here, Life by Design example. This kind of goes back to the gal that was here. Was it Dahl? Lisa Dahl? Amanda Dahl. Talking about a budget. House payment, food, utilities, student loans, pet care, child care. You guys pay bills, you guys know what you do. But this is what it boils down to for the grand total. And then you want to add taxes, about 25%. So this is your net income goal. If you wanted to figure stuff out, expenses of $21,600 a year. So that's what, yeah. So here, if you're creating a Life by Design, you want to be having a bunch of cookie jars on the table, metaphorically, of course. So if you want to go on vacation, you want to reduce your debt, and you want to start a college fund, if these were the numbers that were important, this is what it boils down to. Before taxes, there's your tax rate of 25%. So you have to bring in $62,000. Then the government cometh and take taxes away. And you're left with this. And then this is what you fill the cookie jars with. So play with the spreadsheet. It's kind of fun. It might be scary too. But it's better to find out sooner rather than later.
There's a lot more below that if you scroll.
Oh yeah, look at that.
I think that's what you're looking for.
All right. So this, again, we can enter our business's numbers in. Business expenses on a monthly basis. Here is our market center cap, which is kind of handy. This is the projected percentage of business from listings. 30%, this is splits, depending on how you fall. Listings taken to close percentage, this is, enter the numbers, it figures everything out. So, now, does anyone know what the average sold price here in the 13 county area is?
411.
Yeah, $411,000. So just by changing that, everything cranked out. This tells you, this is your goal of 150,000. Expenses, figuring everything out, it tells you that you've got to hold 38 buyer appointments. You're going to sign 30, you're going to do 24. And then on the listing side, you're going to set 41 listings. You're going to take 33 and sell, close on 26. So, but play with it. You're not going to wreck anything, but at least it's a good start. Yeah. Anyone else?
I was gonna say for PC, we go through the economic model. We've got that worksheet, right? When we talk about the average sales price, the cap, and what all those things equal out to. And then we look at how many, listings, how many buyers we're working with, and then the conversion rate on that, right? And it breaks it down to how many appointments do you need to have per week. Then we talk about how many people do you need to call in order to get those appointments per week, right? And with the shift in the market, it is different now, right? You need to call more people
Yeah, oh yeah.
to hit that.
So, on average, glowing generalities, let's say a commission is 6%. There's a list side, there's a buy side. List side would be about 3.3, whatever's agreed to, right? Buy side is 2.7. The difference between the two is 20%. How many of you would like to make more than 20, an extra 20%? Everybody wants. So listings, if you make more money, that makes sense. I want more listings. Listings are leverage, as we've all been taught. And when you have a listing, you are working approximately 1/4 as much. Versus on the buy side, you are working 4 times as much if you had had the listing. Yeah, but how does that work? When you have a listing, you are an employer. You are hiring all of us as other realtors to help come and sell your listing. When you are working with a buyer, you are an employee. Who hires you? The buyer. The buyer hires you. So you work for the buyer when you have a buy side. When you have a listing, you are employing other realtors to help you out. That's why listings are called leverage, and leverage is a good thing. So if I can make 20% more money with 1/4 of the time, that just makes sense. Yeah, 2%. Any questions on that? How are we for time? 1:14.
Good, 1:15.
Cool, all right. That's all I got, so.
Thanks, Charlie.
Sure.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
Hi, boy, Jolly.
And he's here in the mornings every Tuesday doing lead gen and helps answer questions if you might have any, that you can all come to lead gen.
Here's a silly question I have for you, Jolly. You're talking about lead gen and generating leads in that way and tracking them.
Sure.
How long have you tracked your calls?
Forever.
So like for years now?
Years.
Have you gotten better?
Oh my gosh, yes. So, you guys have time for one more picture or scribble? Good question. So for newer agents, what we found, and including me, the learning curve is straight up. It doesn't really stop, guys. There's always stuff to learn. So as a newer agent, you're learning, and then you start doing buy sides and sell sides, and that's fun. And then you're still learning, but you'll never peak out. But what happens is, during this phase, you may be making a lot more calls. Let's just call it 300 calls per deal. Well, this part here, this is the grind. The more you do, the faster you do it, the sooner you'll get into higher production. You will always, as realtors, bump into situations where we don't know or we don't have as much experience, but that's the value of this team here, is that we've got a lot of experience to help and to rely upon. So what happens is, as you get more experience, these calls per deal, the contacts per deal, go down significantly. So what happens if you sell, let's say you do 25 deals in 1 year, and you had 100 contacts? Well, how many contacts do you need per deal? Okay, 4 contacts. So are you working more efficiently here? Yes. But we were here. So it's just part of that process of learning. So, that could help.
One of the other things I would point out, and one of the things I enjoyed doing when I first got here is I would go and talk to our ALC team. We would be on the call and talk to them every week to say, what did you first do to build your business? And it's sphere, talk to my sphere, open house. And generally every agent had a third thing. But the 3 things were talk to my sphere, open house, and then something. And they religiously go through that process. I wait about a month because they kind of rotate through when they come back and ask them, all right, now you mentioned last time I talked to you, the 3 things you used to build your business were sphere, open house, and you built a lot of your business through the networking groups you joined. Are you still doing open houses and networking groups? And I promise you that the vast majority of them said, after a very long pause, no. And so I guess what I'm getting at is 2 things here. If you're making 300 calls, you build that into your plan. Making 100 calls, you build that into your plan, and you get better, don't stop making 100 calls. Right? If that's what it took you to get to where you are, you still do it. You just get better results. And that's really what you want. Not necessarily, you gotta know your own goals. If your goal is to make X number of dollars and you get there and that be happy making that for the rest of your life, then by all means, step off the gas, call some other people and ask them to call your people for you because you don't need it anymore. Or understand that that's what it took you to build your business and keep at it, because the things that made you who you are still the things that are going to keep you successful. And as you move into a shift, if you've forgotten those things that build your business, or you aren't still touching those things that build your business, it's going to be harder and harder to maintain your business as you should, because you're not doing the things that build your business. If you go back to those things that build your business, you already know how to do them. You're already successful at it. You've already proven to yourself that you can do them, because the reason that most people get out of real estate is they believe that real estate outcomes are unpredictable. It's not, outcomes aren't unpredictable. It's your behavior that's unpredictable. And if you stay at the same level of activity, you know that that's the activity it takes for you to be successful, you just stay there. But if you start backing off, it's a lot harder to build it back up than it is to just maintain and build a little bit. That one more is a lot easier. Would you agree with that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's easy to do nothing or less, but it's hard. It's hard to, maybe for some of us, get out of bed or come to work or make the calls or do the contacts. Just gotta do it.
Is it JOB that requires WORK if you steal from here?
Anyone else? Good questions?
So a couple things to be aware of. We have headshots starting at 1:30. If that's something that interests you, over in the side room, you go out the door, down to the left, there's a little room right there. If you don't want a headshot, you can still go check out the room, which is a good idea. That's the thing. And then at 2 o'clock, I'll be doing Market of the Minute, where we will be talking about using your Keller Williams app. I want to do that, don't understand it, haven't seen it, etc. We'll be talking about that this afternoon from 2.
Thank you, Jolly.
Sure.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you, thank you.
Figured out.
I did actually, good. 3 and 4.
You don't want me to add those, the yellow ones back? No? Yeah.